We just got some huge information on the Riot MMO. Make sure to watch to the end.
You wanna hear a crazy stat? I've been making videos for 13 years. I've been making League videos for 12 years.
13 years. That's some freaking YouTuber goals right there. Holy cow.
And this is my number 1000. Alright, enough for the break, back to the grind.
I just want to give him a clap. Necrit, good job. 1,000 videos, that's crazy.
Whenever I get to talk about the Riot MMO, I have to be wary of the fact that the people who like these videos the most do not come from League of Legends.
Okay, explain? That actually surprises me because I feel like the most popular and hype group would be League of Legends for the League MMO. It's I don't know, it just seems kind of weird that it would be coming from somewhere else.
In fact, believe it or not, but most of that audience comes from World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft, really? Maybe that makes sense because, okay, hear me out. So WoW, the largest MMO for the longest period of time, only surpassed by Final Fantasy XIV, and they kind of duke it out sometimes. FF14 is higher sometimes in popularity. WoW is higher, and you can kind of gauge this by like Google Trend searches and things like that. So yeah, it would make sense, I guess, that the WoW community, being the largest MMO community, or allegedly, would be craving the next big MMO as kind of WoW slowly over time just drops off in popularity and good content. Sorry, Blizzard. And they'd be looking for that next big MMO. And with Riot making banger games, each game they make pretty much, I mean, yeah, they have such a great track record. Even their subsidiaries, the Riot Forge games, are really good. That Riot MMO, something to look forward to. So yeah, maybe it makes sense.
Not only is this apparent by the amount of WoW creators reacting to my videos, which I'm totally fine with, but also, here is a more statistical proof.
That makes sense then. There's a core piece right there. A bunch of WoW creators are reacting to him. So, WoW creators, and then through that, or adjacent to that, or whatever, the WoW community itself. So yeah, that makes sense.
And so, for all of you who came here from outside the normal sphere, if we want to talk about what happened to Riot's MMO, we have to talk about the big news that arrived from League's narrative team.
Okay.
It all started last week with a new drop from League's dev team, where outside of the normal news drops and new champion teasers, after a very long time, we got an update on what is happening to League's lore.
Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, so I've heard that they're... And I kind of noticed this myself, like they kind of just stopped dropping lore drops. It was pretty regular, I feel like, and then it just kind of stopped. So let's see what they have to say.
For all of you who are unaware, for the last year and a half, the lore of League of Legends got essentially frozen.
Right.
With the last story that would expand the League of Legends universe, which is not connected to a new champion release, being released in June 2022.
Has it really been that long? It's been... Wow. It's like a year and a half. That's kind of crazy.
After which, without any announcements, League's lore just stopped getting updated. And from that point on, the only development on this universe we got were new cards from Legends of Runeterra, as well as 2 new games from Riot Forge. Which still sounds good enough, but for context, on top of that, in the past, we used to get about 20 or 30 short stories per year.
20 to 30? I didn't realize it was that many. I mean, I was thinking like every 3 to 6 months. That's crazy.
So naturally, over time, the lore community went through the 7 stages of grief, starting with frustration and ending with acceptance.
Right.
And eventually, after that very long time, we finally got an update.
Okay.
It was an update that on paper didn't seem that big. But in fact, it is so significant that I turned those 2 minutes of news into a 30-minute long video.
Nice. Hey, Necrit, he's got it down. And look at that, 522k views. That's really good. But man, turning 2 minutes into 30, that's some grade A content creator stuff right there. He's got this figured out.
Among these short news, we learned that Riot is dropping short stories. Because truth be told, people are too lazy to read and almost nobody engaged with them.
You know, I gotta be honest. When I said that I knew about these before, I only knew about it because I had a friend who really liked to read that stuff, but I never read it. Ever. I've never read any of these stories. I only watch the cinematics whenever like new champions would come out, or you know, like a world's cinematic. I mean, that's not story related, but you know what I mean. In terms of what I consumed, I would only watch really like new character cinematics, new champion cinematics, and the world's cinematics for new songs and stuff like that. Man, that's really about it. I've never read one of these.
Which, even though my job used to rely on those, I have to agree with it.
Yeah.
These days, if a story is not narrated, people won't care. I mean, look at today's youth. They won't stand a narrated video if it is over 10 seconds long.
I was just going to lead into this. Yeah, I was going to pause right after he said that just to lead into this exact point. Man, the youth today, you gotta have so many things going on. You gotta have like a half-naked girl. You gotta have a song playing. You gotta have gameplay of something that's totally unrelated. And then they might watch your video. Like, jeez.
So instead, Riot will focus their stories onto the bigger projects, be it bigger cinematics or gameplay events. But this is also connected to another big piece of information.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, that totally works out. And, you know, it's probably better that way, right? They're wasting less time and probably money as well on creating all this story on paper. And they'll just turn it into videos or, you know, snippets or whatever, something like an offshoot from a game or, you know, like the Riot Forge games or whatever they want to do, however they want to incorporate it. It'll be more interactive and therefore more engaging, I guess, to more people.
The one that from now on, everything that comes out from League's IP will be canon in one unified universe.
So, okay, wait. Okay. All right. So does that mean so everything can be in the Riot MMO, the League MMO? So everything going forward is canon and therefore capable of being in the MMO. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Okay, all right. I wonder if this applies retroactively. Like, I wonder if they're including everything that currently exists as well? What? This could be huge. Okay.
Because for those of you who don't know, that is not how the lore used to function.
Okay.
League of Legends used to be a bit more like a multiverse. Now, I have never seen the Avengers in my life, but from what I've been told,
I was just talking about that.
Functions a little bit like the MCU.
Yeah.
The core canon universe is the one that was connected to League of Legends.
Okay.
And all its lore came from a website called Universe, which is where you can also find the interactive map.
Okay.
But from this core universe, you had other versions that would branch out. For example, Arcane was never canon in the core universe.
Okay.
In fact, the differences in the stories between Arcane and League of Legends are quite big.
See, I didn't actually know this because, again, I didn't keep up on the story of the League game. So I watch Arcane and I'm just like, oh, this is the story. Like, this is the story of these characters. It must be. But I guess that makes sense why, like, look at these characters, even they look kind of different. Like, I don't know. I don't know how they spun it. But, yeah, I didn't actually know that Arcane wasn't part of it. That's interesting.
Which is why the video where I explained those differences was so popular.
Yeah.
But on the other side, we also had Legends of Runeterra,
a
card game rooted in League's universe.
Yeah.
Which also brought up things which were never mentioned in the core universe.
Okay.
And so, Legends of Runeterra was also considered a different version of the core universe.
Okay. And forgive me, I haven't played Legends of Runeterra, so I'm not super familiar on the lore and everything around it. But that's really interesting. So there was two offshoots, essentially. At least that's what he's saying previous to now. I don't know if things have changed. We're going to have to see where this video goes. But yeah, there was two offshoots. There was the main league. There was Arcane's kind of story, and then there was Legends of Runeterra. Interesting.
But now, with the news we were given, it was confirmed that all of these are being united. So that...
Okay. So, okay. it's all canon. It's all part of the universe. I don't know how it's all going to tie together necessarily, because like he was saying, there's some big differences between Arcane and the actual story for these characters in League. So it's going to be interesting how they tie it all together and make it all canon, but it is all canon. So everything in Legends of Runeterra is canon. Everything. So this is big. This is huge.
That everything can be canon. Now, of course, this would mean
Right.
that some parts of some of the universes have to be retconned, because only one true version of the story has to make it through.
Right.
Which is why, in some parts, there is a little bit of a confusion in the community.
Yeah,
but in fact, it was confirmed that Arcane is now fully canon,
Okay.
with Legends of Runeterra being second in priority.
Okay.
Because it was confirmed that the vast majority of that game is already in line with the new universe.
Okay. So Arcane comes first. They made it all canon. Everything in that story is canon. That's all part of it. And then they're just going to take bits and pieces to make it fit. Whatever fits with Arcane's story will come from Legends of Runeterra. Okay, we've got the picture.
Which means that these two together will overwrite everything else that came from the core universe. Now, I understand that all of this sounds a bit complex, but there is a very good reason why Riot is doing this. On one side, it is a bit of a reaction to feedback, because no matter where you went, people either didn't know about the multiverses and they thought that Arcane was fully canon,
Right.
or they knew about the different versions of the story, but because Arcane was so good, they wanted it to be canon.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, something going through my mind right now. Necrit has made tons of videos on the Riot MMO. The mounts I reacted to, like loot and like the world map, the places that you'll actually get to see. Oh my goodness. So everything he made videos on really could be accurate. Like, meaning, I mean, there's potential for it all to be accurate now, because all of those things that he made videos on were coming from like Legends of Runeterra or from maybe Arcane a little bit. It's all possible now. That's what he's saying. This is insane. Oh my goodness. So we actually have a bigger like window or image into what this MMO could look like than we maybe at first thought. This is crazy.
So with this merging, you're gonna be satisfying most of your audience. Which, by the way, now also means that by watching Arcane, you're just teasing yourself for the MMO.
Right.
But the other reason why this happened, and arguably the more important one, is that this is a setup for Riot's future games.
Okay.
Right now, besides Riot Forge, there are 3 big games related to Runeterra which Riot is working on. The fighting game nicknamed Project L.
Is anyone excited for Project L? I'm kind of excited. I'm not that big of a like a Mortal Kombat, like Capcom versus SNK style fighting game person. I'm really not. But if it's League, I don't know. Like League characters, I love League. So I'm kind of tempted to be excited for this. It looks cool.
A kind of a forgotten top-down fighter called Project F,
Oh, yeah.
which we still have no information on besides that very short clip.
Right.
And of course, the long-awaited MMO. But the amazing thing about these games is that now, with the news that arrived, we now know that all of these will be connected.
Right.
The places we'll see will exist across all the games.
I wonder if like the Mage Seeker story and oh shoot, what's the other one? The Ruined King and what's the other game? There's a new game also. I wonder if those all will also be connected. This is crazy.
The characters will be consistent no matter where they appear,
Okay.
and their story and motivations should be linked in some way. Of course,
Okay.
that is unless it gets overwritten with gameplay. Now, I know that all of this may sound insane,
Yeah.
and perhaps a little bit far-fetched because it may not seem like a big deal.
Oh no, it's a big deal and it's insane for sure, but in a good way.
But that is where Riot disagrees. Because a very important detail is that Riot announced that they now have what they call League's IP team.
Okay.
With their job being to oversee everything that comes out of League's IP and make sure that all the stories that come out are consistent in that one singular universe.
That is good. That is good news. I'm actually really happy to hear that because I feel like all of these different pieces, it would be really easy for everything to get disjointed and become this like ugly mess. So it's kind of cool to hear that they have a dedicated team that's going to be like in contact with all the other teams and like, hey, what's going on? Give us this, give your notes here. Like, let's stay in contact. Let's work this out and make sure that everything is cohesive. That's promising.
Or again, in other words, there is a whole team that is dedicated to make sure everything is canon and everything is consistent.
Yes.
So going forward, from today, all new storytelling is going to be part of one shared canon, rather than a jumble of different experiences that are similar but inconsistent.
Nice.
And our goal is to ensure that major events in our stories, as well as the essence of what makes a champion who they are, will be reflected across everything that Riot makes.
Which, as it turns out,
Crazy.
should be a big deal for Riot's MMO. So let me explain how it's related to that.
Okay.
You see, in the past, when I was working on the Riot MMO videos, we always talked about everything as a hypothetical.
Right.
We knew what existed in the universe.
Right.
And so we were able to pick out all the things Riot might put into their game.
Right.
Did you catch it? No matter what we talked about, be it the base world, the races and classes,
Right.
the bosses and villains, the loot, or even the mounts, they were always things Riot might put into their game.
Right.
Because we always assumed that the MMO will be a twist on their universe.
Right. We had no confirmation to be sure, like, okay, it's going to be the exact same story as what's in League or what's in Arcane or what's in Legends of Runeterra. We had no confirmation of any of that. It was just, okay, we have a Riot MMO, it's in progress, blah, blah, blah. But now we have that confirmation. We have confirmation that the canon is all one cohesive thing, or going to be one cohesive thing going forward. So now we know for sure everything he's made videos on. He was way more accurate, I think, than he even thought. Any of it can be in the MMO. This is crazy.
But now we know there will be no twists. Not with the IP team overlooking it.
Right.
Now, what's even better is that if you go back to those videos, you'll see that for the majority of the examples, I showed you things from Legends of Runeterra. Which was confirmed to be one of the foundations of the new universe.
Okay.
Which means that all those videos became way less hypothetical.
Exactly.
And way more like a guideline for what is Riot trying to recreate.
Exactly.
Or in other words, somehow those videos became a lot more relevant.
Woo!
Which is funny because one of the big critiques I got for those videos was that they were awful because Riot's MMO was just one big mystery and I was making stuff up.
How can you be speaking in hypotheticals like this? How can you be throwing out all these lies and deceit? You're a faker, fake YouTuber, blah, 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 fake Riot fan. No, he was actually really spot on. I mean, like a lot more than anyone could have probably thought. Yeah, it's crazy. Look who's laughing now, Necrit, and me, because I reacted to him.
So was I now? To put this into context for WoW's audience, if we go back to 2002, oh god, we are old.
Yeah.
Back to when Warcraft 3 was released. If you look at all the world building that came with it, you'll see that since then, things changed. Especially if you look at the world map. The Warcraft 3 map was vastly different from what made it into WoW. In a way, people considered the WoW version an upgrade and an evolution over what came before.
Right.
But when you break it down, it also became an alternative take on the world. One that made more sense story-wise and gameplay-wise.
Yeah.
Because the map was reconstructed so that leveling and traveling around made more sense.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there was still a lot of canon story that happened on the old layout.
Yeah.
And well, for the longest time, this is how we thought Riot's MMO would work. When it comes out, there would be some changes to the story and the world, so that the MMO...
And that would be acceptable, I would think. Yeah. They would have to make some changes to make it fit for the story to flow, for all the gameplay elements to work. But this is really interesting. Man, it's hard to not get excited finding out that there is more that we know than we actually thought at first. The hype is just building.
MMO wouldn't run into gameplay issues. which means it wouldn't really be a one-to-one recreation of what we had.
Right.
Exactly like what happened between Warcraft 3 and WoW.
Yeah.
But now we know that Riot is planning ahead of time.
Yes.
And they are setting up their new universe so that there would have to be only a minimum of changes.
Right.
And so that they can try and go for a one-to-one recreation. Now, is it realistic that Riot will succeed at this?
I mean, who knows? Who knows? It could be really amazing, or, you know, there could be some points or spots or story elements or even characters maybe that get left out. Minor characters, obviously, nothing major. But, you know, maybe that's good. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's better that they take the time to tie it all together now so it works with the MMO, because let's be honest, this MMO has the potential, I think, to be huge. This could be the WoW killer, in my opinion. Like, I really feel that strongly because the Riot fan base is so big and Riot makes so many good games. Like, there's a precedent set there for this to be huge and popular and massive and absolutely be the WoW killer.
Somewhat. If Arcane told us anything, it is that Riot can really pay attention to the tiniest details.
Yeah.
But for the sake of good gameplay, I'm not gonna nitpick some of the changes.
Yeah.
So now, with all of this said, Legends of Runeterra kinda became a blueprint for the Riot MMO.
Okay.
Think of it like an archive of concept art that Riot will try to put into their MMO.
Yeah, I mean, Legends of Runeterra, that's a bunch of cards, so a bunch of graphics. They have so much to work with, like so much. Yeah, I mean, so they have a huge catalog that they can just pick and choose from, story elements as well, and just build out this world. It's kind of crazy.
Sure, I think everyone can agree that Legends of Runeterra has a lot going on, so not everything will be part of the MMO.
Yeah.
At least at launch. Because
Right.
during my interview with the MMO team, they said that their ultimate goal is to recreate the Runeterra that we know.
Oh.
Funnily enough, they probably said it while knowing that Riot will be changing how the universe works. So they
Well, then now we know. Legends of Runeterra is the groundwork that they set and made for the Riot MMO. There you go.
probably knew those words would have some weight.
Crazy.
Even though back then, I definitely didn't. Which also means that everything I showed you in my videos might as well be real.
There
which
it
kinda
is.
came as a surprise to me as well, to be honest. When you have a look at the mounts, the question is no longer, will they put this dog into their game? The question now shifted
to, is this dog going to be $25 or $50 in the game? Yeah, but seriously, I mean, this will probably be in the world. It's crazy.
to how will this dog appear in their game?
Right.
Because now we know that dog is somewhere in that world.
Right.
When it comes to all the big bosses and villains, the question is no longer who will they pick to be in the MMO, and it's gonna be more about how will we meet Viego?
That is going to be insane. Some of these bosses, oh man, fighting Scion, fighting Viego, fighting Gangplank, it's going to be insane.
Greatest villain in this universe.
Yeah.
That's unless you count Mordekaiser.
Well, yeah.
Not to mention that when I was hypothetically talking about all the loot and all the legendary weapons that exist in this universe, well, now they should consistently exist in that universe.
Right.
Which suddenly gives the entire arsenal from the Ruined King a whole new meaning. So I would recommend playing a class that can use two-handed maces, because when we fight Mordekaiser, he better drop Nightfall.
Yes!
And lastly, with perhaps the coolest connection to these news, we have to mention the locations. If the IP team
Right.
is making sure that everything is consistent, with a pretty high confidence, I can tell you that we are extremely likely to find some of the iconic places we know about in the MMO.
Oh man, and there's so many cool places. Oh, so many cool places. I mean, just going over, if you watch through Necrit's world map video, oh man, it's just, there's so much potential. There can be really beautiful places, really dark and gritty places, really mysterious, like eerie places. Oh, it's gonna be a beautiful world.
But what's even cooler is that Arcane is on the same list too.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to explore something like The Last Drop.
Yes.
Because no matter how or when that place will be implemented, now we simply know that place will be there.
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
to finish off this video, I just wanted to tell you that all the Riot MMO videos which I made, which people thought were totally random, suddenly got a lot more real. Just keep in mind that I am...
Yeah, so I feel like he's definitely wrapping up with this. I mean, there's a lot left to the video, but he's saying his last point is just basically rehashing. So we will just wrap up as well. This is absolutely nuts, guys. Okay, so we now know that all the canon is coming together. All of the existing canon is now possible things to be, and not possible, but probably will be in the game somewhere. After they kind of shift things or pick and choose the elements of the Legends of Runeterra that they want to be in the canon, the whole canon, so that things don't conflict. It's crazy. This is turning out to be really huge. The Riot MMO, we have so much information now as to what is going to be in this world. And this MMO, I really think, is shaping up to be a huge, huge competitor to WoW. Well, what do you guys think? Was that Riot MMO information crazy or what? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like, a subscribe, and I will see you next time.